Boom. Right? The Terminus Directive. So Terminus is a show that's taking place on the 16th in Atlanta, Georgia, and it's already sold out. Kudos to those guys. I think it's absolutely phenomenal what they're doing, and I thought that this was really cool. Now, it's run by Jonathan Gresham and Baron Black, I believe. So they wanted to have a distinct feel for their world. And I love what they've done here. And does that mean I necessarily agree or I would do things in a similar fashion? No, except in the general sense that I think having your own set of distinctly laid out rules so people know what to expect and so you can work with them in that pro wrestling way is smart. So what does it say here? All matches must be won by pin, submission, KO, or DQ, parentheses, unless substitute stipulation agreed upon by grapplers. Time limits, strictly enforced. Singles matches, 15 minutes. Tag multi-man, 15 minutes. Championship bouts, 20. So what they're telling you is you're never going to have to deal with a long slog, right? There's an overtime. A 90-second overtime period occurs if there is no winner after time limit expires. That's great too. So if they want two guys to match up well and they want to put them both over, they have them go to the time limit. Then really whoever wins in overtime, which I would suggest that they do more often than not, I think that that's cool and it gives another level of excitement when a time limit is reached. I think it's very smart. Grapplers will start overtime period in a neutral position. If there is no decision when overtime expires, the result is a draw. Disqualification criteria: 2 technical fouls or foreign object usage. Foreign object usage, by the way, it tells you that you get an immediate disqualification and expulsion from Terminus. So they're not going to have weapon BS happening. Again, that's their avenue to take. Though I'm sure that they could also work it where somebody used a foreign object and didn't get caught, and that's dangerous and all that kind of stuff. Or outside interference is just a disqualification right off the bat, which is cool. The technical fouls, if you violate 2 of them, then you're gone. Throwing somebody over the top rope, 10-second rope count, 5-second rope corner break, intentional physical contact with a referee. That's interesting that wouldn't be, I guess even minor touches would be a technical foul. 2 of them and you're gone. Intentional low blow, eye gouge, fish hooking, hair pulling, spitting, closed fist punches to the face. Interesting. Or technical fouls can be given at the referee discretion. I think that's a smart little addition. And countouts are 5 seconds. I wonder if that means outside of the ring as well. I guess we'll have to wait and see. In any case, I think what Terminus is trying to do is really cool. Second story. This idea that, and apparently it's an official thing, that the WWE has changed. You cannot use the term pay-per-view anymore. And now you call them a premium live event. People are making fun of this, as well they should, because it's dumb, but it's not stupid. And what I mean by that is the very fact that it is a thing is there's something kind of embarrassing about it, but technically they are not pay-per-views anymore, that those don't exist. Which means AEW officially dominates the pay-per-view market. And for our third story, we're going to take a look at this clip. I won't embarrass the wrestler by pointing him out, but what an unsuccessfully bad job he does of trying to get color. You can see him blatantly. It's the blatant fashion at which he's doing. Dude, if you're pulling that thing out and sticking yourself in front of everybody without even trying to hide it, then you get a second chance where you cover your head and try to get it. And then the best you can get is a dot. And then eventually you give the blade to the other guy for him to do it. I mean, it's just embarrassingly bad. Yeah, let's take a look at that clip now.
Come on, Brian, do it again. Bring this bell.
And just to point out how awful this color is. Now, keep in mind, this is in the Landmark Arena, where it is a point of pride. It's a point of pride in wrestling in general to get good color, or at least some color. But in that building, I would say it's even doubly so imperative that you do it. Take a look at this picture that I'm going to show you of the color that this person got, and then we will be out. 1, 2, 3. Thank you for joining us for the Platinum Pinfall. It's about MLW, Major League Wrestling, run by Court Bauer, trying to make headway, trying to make waves. Recently, they've re-upped Logan Creed, a.k.a. Mads Kruger, for a multi-year deal. They re-signed Hammerstone to a deal. They signed Davey Richards to a deal. So obviously they're coming for it. They're in it to win it. They had that one show on Vice, right? The big match between Jacob Fatu and Alexander Hammerstone, which I covered live as it was happening. But MLW has filed a lawsuit against the WWE. Now, people are going to have all kinds of opinions about this. I'll just say that I don't know the legal ramifications, except for the fact that if it manages to take hold and become a thing, it could be a big deal. What are they suing about? The long and short of it is that the WWE practices unfair business practices in order to hurt their competition. That doesn't mean that they have a monopoly. It does mean, however, that they're using tactics that they are not supposed to, that are indeed illegal, in order to blunt their competition. Something that MLW cited specifically was Vince McMahon apparently being upset at Vice for transmitting that program and basically implying that he wouldn't do business with them and that kind of thing. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know what's correct and what's not correct as far as the legal stuff goes, but I do think it's significant, and I do think it's a strong indication that WWE is not seen as untouchable any longer, even by much smaller groups. So I'm sure there'll be much more about that story later on. Speaking of the WWE, our next story is about... Who do we... Oh, I got to cover these lovely... Yeah, we'll do that. NXT! What does that mean? What changes have taken place? They're significant. And this is a story that I haven't seen around all that much, which surprises me because it's huge. NXT used to operate under a certain level of autonomy. They weren't their writing staff. By the way, they got rid of a bunch of their creative. And now the people that they do have to answer to that John Laurinaitis, Bruce Pritchard crew, just like SmackDown writers, just like Raw writers. So people always said, oh, the Triple H era is over, the black and gold era is over. It's over because of this and it's over because of that. Folks, once you take away their creative autonomy, that is the official death of the black and gold or the Triple H era or whatever you want to call it for NXT. It does not bode well. And our last story, it's as, I guess you could call it a fluff piece, or maybe you could call it a fluffer piece. What the hell does that mean? Hook, who has garnered quite a bit of attention with AEW, the fact that this was a story, that this kid is out in New York City at a strip club, partying it up, and all that kind of good stuff. The fact that that's noteworthy enough to hit any kind of news cycle is amazing to me for two reasons. One, it means AEW is for real. It means Hook is for real, right? And two, young single guy with a little bit of money goes to a strip club and has fun, but he was with some celebrities as well. Pretty hilarious. Congratulations on enjoying your young life, Hook. I don't know what else to say. I guess Hook, in a lot of ways, is a throwback kind of wrestler. Doesn't look like that he's playing video games to me. Wait, what are you talking about? Oh, you want to see a few seconds of Hook with a stripper? That's how we're going to close out the Platinum Pinfall. We'll see you tomorrow. 1, 2, 3. Have a good night. Because we already know Hook is going to. Show him, Hook. One about Brian Pillman Jr. of AEW. One about Corey Graves of WWE, and then this one of local interest in the Georgia area. So let's go ahead and start with that. So Matt Hankins, African-American friend of mine, a guy who took over Platinum Championship Wrestling. We just had the Georgia Wrestling History Awards, and every year it's dominated by a promotion. It has been since they've done these awards. Since 2004, I believe, possibly even 2002. I've been heavily involved in the awards as far as putting together a committee to go over the nominations and organizing the process and stuff for the past, I'd say, 4 years, maybe 5. And the awards have become this big deal. More people voted in them than ever before. We had more participation from more diverse range of people. More wrestling groups got involved and all that kind of stuff. So that's very exciting. This is an award that is voted on by your peers, wrestling people, that have to go through at least some kind of vetting process in order to be able to vote and receive a ballot. In any case, Matt Hankins, usually it's about a promotion, like I said. One promotion tends to dominate the awards, and that has been true every year until 2021. The person who dominated was Matt Hankins. A guy that I love, a guy that I like, and a guy that is very respected in the Georgia wrestling community. Why is this significant? For a number of reasons. First, he won, let me put the stat up there, he won Manager of the Year. Now, he won this one going away, and he does every year. This is, let's just be blunt, let's just be honest, this is his award to lose. Right, he had a little bit of competition at one point, but you can see he won by over half the votes. He got 45 votes. The next closest was Logan Chase with 21, and Candy Cannoli, gorgeous woman, who's pictured behind me, she got 20 votes, and then Tyreek Robinson, a young man who's making his way in the world today, takes everything he's got 17 votes. But Matt Hankins dominates that category, so that's not really news. But mentor, this is huge. Matt Hankins counsels a lot of young men and young women in the ways of the wrestling world. Todd Sexton, who he narrowly edged out, got 39 votes, and Todd Sexton does a great job, helps out with a wrestling school, helps out with a number of promotions. He's won Mentor before, certainly deserves to be up there. And then Ace Haven, for the second year, was up there as well, does a great job there in Piedmont, Alabama with Pro South, really runs that show, runs a tight ship. I've been to Pro South and seen it in firsthand myself, but Hankins really gets involved in these guys' lives and makes them better, and you can see that reflected in the voting. And then finally, the capper, Booker. So Dylan Freimeyer books the largest promotion in Georgia, Southern Honor, and has won the last 2 years. Todd Sexton had won many times before for different promotions, either as part of a team or on his own. The Pro South team got their first nod this year in there, and then Matt Griffin had been there as well. But Matt Hankins winning this tells me a lot of things. It tells me that the young guys are really for Matt Hankins. It tells me that black wrestlers in particular really appreciate Matt Hankins. And what it also tells me is, and this is what I'm hoping, that ultimately we reach a point where it's not noteworthy that Matt is black. That it is, in fact, I think we're getting to the point where it's just, hey, Matt Hankins won these 3 awards, and it's absolutely amazing. But I do not want to diminish the accomplishment or the significance thereof. That's why I highlighted it here. I might as well stay right here in this chair. Boom! Corey Graves. What's the significance of this? He's been cleared after 7 years that he can wrestle. Obviously, this means he's probably going to be a part of the Royal Rumble. But I also think that this is part of an ongoing story of guys who apparently had career-ending injuries, who were now learning they can rehabilitate and come back, whether that's Edge, whether that's Bryan Danielson, and now Corey Graves. And I think it's great news. And I think if used in a proper way, that this could be a really great thing for WWE and kind of spice up their angles, kind of give a different twist on things. And Corey Graves, I think in his platform as a commentator, can use this foray into wrestling as really being able to work heel in a league where there really aren't that many definitive heels. I think it's great news. I'm glad Corey Graves is going to be there. He's obviously been working very hard, especially if you believe this picture, and all of that. Okay, the last thing. So Brian Pillman Jr.'s girlfriend recorded this clip and then put it up thinking it was funny, and then quickly realized how bad it looked, so took it down. But people have started sending me clips to use as part of Platinum Pinfall, and this clip is, and we're going to end the show on this clip. It's Pillman Jr. massaging her feet and then basically urging her to that she needs to go ahead and suck his dick, and that she's a good fuck, but she really needs to suck his dick. And it's one of these things where he just looks like a complete jackass and all of that kind of stuff. And I just thought it was an amusing clip. I try to have a little video clip on every one of these. So that's this one. But I'll be back tomorrow for another edition of the Platinum Pinfall. And as we leave you with Brian Pillman Jr. and the cringiest 10 seconds that you're going to see today, you can thank me, Stephen Platinum. This has been the Platinum 1, 2, 3 Pinfall. Thanks for joining me, and cringe away.
Yeah, you gotta quit being so against sucking dick. Like, such a pain in the ass when I'm having like the best sex of my life, and you won't even give me that ultimate climb.
Oh! Welcome to the Platinum Pinfall. Stephen Platinum here. I'm going to talk about a story first that I'm not going to talk about. At least not at length, and that's the Tammy Stitch, aka Sunny, getting arrested. A lot of people sent me this story, and I totally understand why. Here's the thing. She doesn't fucking matter. Not in the wrestling world. And while everything that's happening to her is different levels of sad or tragic or infuriating or disheartening, all I can say is when I met her, she was fucking bitch, and obviously has things to deal with that go way beyond wrestling, and it's just a fucking mess. And is it a shame? Sure. Do I hope the people close to her can get to her and help her out? Sure, I guess. But I don't know how many people's lives she's going to make worse in the process. Sucks. It is what it is. I'm not covering that. It certainly doesn't count as one of the three. But something that definitely counts as one of the three, like, bam! Tony Schiavone re-signs with AEW. This is perhaps the most significant story that nobody's really giving that much of a shit about. Seems like a natural. He's had what looks to be the best time of his career right now. You know, his book ended up being a graphic novel, so I'm going to knock that thing out in one shot because I want to review the book that was just sent to me by another wrestling person. And I want to really give my attention to that one, so I'm going to knock out the Tony Schiavone thing and do a video about it. But here's the thing. And it's one of the secrets of AEW. It's Jim Ross and it's Tony Schiavone. There's something reassuring about having them there. There's something great about having them enjoy this product. This isn't just a mercenary gig for them, like we've seen in wrestling so many times, where you have kind of like upstart leagues who get veteran people on their show and they talk the show up, but it's a lot of sales and it's a lot of nonsense, right? There's countless examples of this. But Tony Schiavone really loves being there, and they love having him there. And he's really a part of, I hesitate to use this word, but it seems to apply, the AEW family. And re-signing him well before his contract was up, I think sends a bit of a message. And it's, dude, we're glad you're here, and we want you here, and we love that you're here. And I think that love is returned, and I think it comes across to the people who listen to Tony Schiavone. So it's awesome. What's not awesome? The weather that is going to hit Georgia this weekend. This is the second story. Shows canceling. I saw Platinum Championship Wrestling canceled. Southern Fried canceled. And that Zicky Dice show looks like it's in super, super trouble. I just hope everybody stays safe. And it's a reminder that one of the great things about Florida and the Georgia area is generally inclement weather is one of those things that really only affects you once every blue moon, right? Yes, it gets very hot, but I've rarely, if ever, heard of a show being canceled because it's hot. But, you know, the hurricane stuff hits Florida once in a blue moon, messes stuff up. Snow and ice, or the possibility thereof, hits Georgia once every blue moon, messes things up. It sucks, but keep in mind, in other parts of the country, they have to deal with much worse, much more often. A little perspective. I know that's cold comfort to PCW, to Southern Fried, and gosh, hopefully the Zicky Dice show does okay, but who knows. Now, by Sunday, Terminus has happened, and that bad boy is already sold out. So, super cool there. Can't wait to hear about all of these shows happening. And the ones that aren't happening, hey, we'll see you next time. Third story. I was reminded by the recent run of Impact Wrestling. So Impact Wrestling has put on the best pay-per-view of the year so far. Oh, that's funny, Steve. Ha ha ha. There haven't really been any. It was way better than day one, I'll tell you that. And I think it already set a high bar. And the Ring of Honor invasion thing that started to take place was continued on Impact. But on Impact was an incredibly good show. And it wasn't that long ago that I was like, man, I might have to stop watching Impact because this is shit. But you had a couple of things that dovetailed nicely. You had Deonna Purrazzo, who lost to Mickie James, right? And did not get her Knockouts title back, but she was also the AAA Women's Champion. And so she put her title up against Roxy, the Ring of Honor Champion, and she beat Roxy, so she's got both titles. So instantly, Impact through booking has reestablished Deonna Purrazzo, kept Mickie James at a high level for her thing that she's going to do with the WWE, and then justified the Ring of Honor thing. We're going to end the show with the clip from that, but I just want wrestling companies out there to know and wrestling people to know, you can turn this shit around. Impact Wrestling this week will probably be the best wrestling show. Dynamite, I thought, was not a very good show. Raw was raw. NXT was beyond a good main event. Impact Wrestling, through good old-fashioned, we can do a better show, we can book a hot angle, we can keep establishing strength, we can keep making sure our stars look very strong, even when we're giving conclusive and decisive finishes. Impact Wrestling. Any proof that, further proof needed that 2022 is wacky, is that Impact is showing us the way. 1, 2, 3. This has been Platinum Pinfall for January 14th.
Wait. No, Matt! A Raywall! A Taman, Vincent, PCO, and Bennett!
First one? I'm sure you guys have seen this. Pop! What is that in reference to? Why is Drake's face on a hot sauce packet? Why am I glad that the kids have left the room while I talk about this? For those that don't know, and I was shocked about how many people in the wrestling world didn't know, and by people in the wrestling world, I mean white wrestlers in the wrestling world. Black people seem to know about this mess. And why am I talking about this as far as a wrestling news story? Let's look at this. Allegedly, Drake and an Instagram model allegedly met up on Instagram, and the two decided to link up a few weeks ago. The model and Drake had a romantic encounter, and what happened next was crazy. Long story short, she gave a bunch of specific details, right? Specific details so you knew that she really hooked up with Drake, including the details that you would most want to probably know about. No homo, right? So they went at it. Drake used a condom. Then he took that condom and disposed of it, right? Then she fished the condom out of the trash, untied it, and then basically put the opening end into her, because she was apparently trying to get pregnant by Drake. But she was in for a surprise. She said it was like pouring hot lava there. She screamed. Drake runs into the bathroom, and then he admits that he poured a packet of hot sauce in the condom to kill the sperm. So now the Instagram model is threatening to sue Drake. Why am I bringing this up? One, it is one of the funniest stories of all time. Two, it is absolutely bonkers. And three, it is way more entertaining than anything going on in pro wrestling today. But what are the key parts of this story? Details. They told you what you wanted to know. Two, the punchline is unbelievable. And three, the follow-up is interesting and it invites debate. Threatening to sue Drake? Sue him for what? What does this mean? What does it reveal? What is interesting about this story? The answer is everything. Wrestling people, we need to come up with some different stories. I'm not saying we've got to do the Drake bit. In fact, what makes me sad is somewhere in pro wrestling will do this whole Drake bit. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that we can come up with different kind of stories, stuff that's outrageous. If it's truly a male soap opera with a physical aspect, which is exactly what it is, it's just storytelling. We need to come up with some different stories. We saw that was very possible. It's the reason Zach Mosley against Skrilla won for Best Feud. It wasn't necessarily the matches or anything else. It was just that those two guys came up with a concept and ran with it. That's what we're looking for. Thanks, Drake. Thanks for living an incredibly bizarre life. And, I would imagine raising the sales of hot sauce. These are the important things. Cool. Our next story, David Marquez, the guy who once ran Championship Wrestling from Atlanta, and there is no more Championship Wrestling for Atlanta because they fucked that all up, right? He posted this recently. Boop, I'll read it for you. When will people who report on or share their opinion on televised pro wrestling realize that it's a TV show? It's 2022 and we're still talking about empty seats? Broadcast licenses, advertising, and merchandise are top-line items. The show you watch are already paid for before the tickets ever go on sale. Again, we're a TV show. He says. He's establishing that he is in the same realm as the WWE and AEW. Get the fuck out of here. And before you bring up ROH, that's a different situation altogether. They could have kept going. Someone on the top floor said pause. Enjoy what we do or don't, but please don't think you know what's really going on with promotions and their bottom lines. It'll give you a headache. I know, it gives me one daily. Watch the Olympics coming up and count how many seats are unoccupied. Empty seats indeed. One, the people going to the Olympics are paying a fuckload more for seats than people going to, let's say, your indie show. But that notwithstanding, you know what matters? Perception. And in a business like pro wrestling, where watching the live experience is a huge part of it. Yes, empty seats look horrible. If empty seats didn't look horrible and empty seats didn't ultimately hurt the bottom line, then they wouldn't have brought in the Thunderdome, correct? They would have just allowed us. How did the shows do, like Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, that basically recorded their wrestling shows with no fans there? They did not do well. And perception is reality. And those TV contracts that he's talking about, perception sure as hell is reality. And the perception is, if you're wrestling in front of large arenas with a lot of empty seats, that people are not passionate about your product. Because that's the truth. And that's eventually going to translate to your viewing audience. It has been said many times that the three most important entities are the two things wrestling one another and the crowd. Because without crowd reactions and without crowds giving you their energy, your show simply doesn't matter as much. And that's as true today as it has ever been. David Marquez is talking about money made on broadcast licenses, advertising, and merchandising, and that live fans don't matter, and none of that matters. And yet Championship Wrestling from Atlanta is fucking kaput. And Peach State TV certainly didn't want programming from other places, because what they were promised were shows that took place in Atlanta. And when they no longer got that, they no longer wanted to deal with them. And then sponsors and money marks ran away, and the whole thing imploded. And if they were so non-concerned with fans, then why did they go out of their way to make sure that they were there? And why did they consider it a Roman triumph that they sold more than 100 seats at their last taping, which wasn't at Center Stage Atlanta? Again, if fans don't matter, David and other people who agreed with him, then why don't we just record all wrestling in a sound studio with no fans and just pipe in crowd noise if that's what is necessary? Because wrestling, pro wrestling, is outlaw. And it has to be a living, breathing thing. And it has to have the people's reaction to what they're seeing that we can see on camera matters. And the more people you have, the better. And if you don't think that that's true, then please compare the threadbare crowds that they're pulling together for free, begging people to come for free for NXT now, compared to, let's say, a takeover crowd from back in the day. Our third story is Roman Reigns getting caught slipping, talking in a naturalistic way. Now, Roman Reigns is great, and he's lovely, and this is really just for yucks, though there may be fallout. The fallout is not for me to predict or determine, but basically Roman getting caught kind of slipping and saying the N-word is absolutely hysterical, because you could tell Roman is one of the few guys that they don't regiment, that they don't write out everything he says. He gets to go out there and be himself, and so things like this happen. I just thought this was a funny clip. We're going to end today's edition of the Platinum Pinfall here on the 15th with this. For those who have been signing up for my Patreon, mainly to get these, I would gather, I really appreciate you. Again, we have a new Platinum Pinfall every day, straight to the Patreon people, and then after a few days, we release it to a general public. So if you're one of those people who are just in the general public getting to see this a couple of days late, you can always sign up for my Patreon. Anyway, have a great weekend, y'all. Stay safe, especially in Georgia. We'll see how all that stuff falls out. Maybe we'll even talk about it on the 1, 2, 3 Platinum Pinfall. Oh, Roman, come preach that word. Oh, boy.
About the past, y'all. You must be sleeping under a rock or something, man.
There's my kid.
I like the Wizard of Oz.
Bringing it. All right, 3, 1, 2, 3 quick stories about wrestling. First of all, no, let's cover my face with it. Oh, everything's okay. What is this? This is a screenshot I took from the stream of the Zicky Dice show, and guess what? I was wrong. That show went incredibly well. You're talking about more than 300 in there. You're talking about a gate a number of at least $10,000 because again, everybody with those VIP bracelets was paying top dollar to be there. A great show. And if they are to be believed, 300,000 people watching on stream. Now, at first I was like, well, I don't know, because there's some... But my kids quickly corrected me, especially Leo, saying, don't let the top streamers throw those numbers off in your head. If you're getting more than 1,000 or 10,000, you're doing really well. So 300,000, according to my kid, is incredibly good. So kudos to them. I'm glad the weather held out for you. And it kicked ass. And it's great to see. And Terminus is sold out. And they're selling standing room seats. And I see people sending pictures from there. Larry is there. So we got a report from Rob Rod for Zicky Dice's show. And we're going to get a report from Larry for the Terminus show. Georgia wrestling history coming through again. That's why I should always go the other way with it. Anyway, second story. Second story is about Jim Ross, who did an interview and talked about a bunch of cool stuff. But the one thing I wanted to focus on is this person, Jade Cargill. I think it's just so cool that you have people at AEW and people who know what they're talking about, like Jim Ross, talking about how they feel free to communicate, especially with the young wrestlers. Jim Ross told her, you got a lot of work to do. But Jim Ross put her over, saying she's really smart. She wants to be really, really good. But that he's right. She does have a lot of work to do. But he said something else that I thought was really insightful and interesting. This part here where he talks about when she walked up to that stage with her little girl in her arms, that got me. That's real. It got me, and I was really proud of her in that moment. Being a single mom, even though her ex was there, it was cool that he, meaning the ex, supported the mom and the little girl, even though they're not together any longer. So yeah, that was a moment for me that kind of defined Jade and started separating her from the pack. Having a child made her a little more real. I thought that was cool. I thought just Jim Ross in general, the thought of a guy who's been around forever and a day like Jim Ross going up to Jade Cargill and them talking shop and him recognizing what was great about her and potentially super great. I just think that's a really great, sorry I keep using the word great. I thought it was a really amazing wrestling story. Now let's look at this picture. Mustafa Ali, Vince McMahon supposedly had a fight. Mustafa Ali, who had been primed to do this gimmick called A New America, and was already doing work in that regard. And then Vince McMahon not liking the idea at a certain point, even though they were kind of getting it going, and then proposing something that supposedly Mustafa Ali was just like, bro, I will not do that. And it leading to him asking for his release. Now, whether he gets it or not, who knows? Sometimes they're slow to grant those kind of things, like they were with the Lucha Brothers. And this is not me knocking the fact that Vince McMahon decided he didn't want to go with the New America thing and go with a different direction. Certainly he's done that a million times before with a million different people, and sometimes it's worked out and sometimes it has not. But it does say something to me about the WWE. It's just not the same aura of, if I don't make it there, I'm a failure, or I have to be there, or I'm going to put up with their shit because it's the best game in town. I think it's yet another thing that indicates that things have shifted greatly in the wrestling world. And even the Zicky Dice show and Terminus, which is happening right now, shows there's a shift, and there is room, and there is innovative thinking that can happen. And even old codgers like me who have opinions on stuff can absolutely be wrong. And I love to be proven wrong by something like the Zicky Dice show. I think it's great. And it shows that there's hope, and hopefully there's a place in Mustafa Ali somewhere else where he can find some creative satisfaction and hopefully make a living. As for that new America gimmick, I was intrigued by it. And then Mustafa Ali himself released how we're going to close the show today, with obviously a promo geared in this new America direction. So all you can do is judge for yourself. Do you think this is good? Do you think it had potential? What does it say about Mustafa Ali as a performer? I saw the things he got saddled with. You know, he was gone for a really long time, out of sight, out of mind. That's not good. And then he was made in charge of Retribution, which was just a horrible gimmick that was unsavable. And, you know, it is what it is. Again, not passing judgment as much as letting you judge for yourself. If you haven't seen the David Ali, or even if you have and you want to check it out again, let me know. What do you think of the New America?
New America. Sounds like America discovered another land and then taxed it and then rebelled and then it named a city that despite it. Like New Britain. Oh no.
That's what we call a run-in. This has been the 1, 2, 3 Platinum Pinfall. Let's talk to you later.
Good evening, America. Tonight, I need to discuss something of the utmost importance to our great nation. Something that I have personally been striving for my entire life. And that is acceptance. You see, despite being born here in the United States of America, every day I have to prove to you that I belong. So I didn't correct you when you would mispronounce my name because I didn't want you to feel embarrassed. I was mindful of the clothes that I wore because I didn't want you to think I looked suspicious. I lowered my head and said nothing when you would make jokes about what I look like or where I might be from. I did all of this with the hopes that one day you would look at me and see your fellow American. But you didn't. And the truth is, you never will. And despite my greatest efforts to fix this problem, I realized this is a problem that I cannot fix. But I can overcome it. And I will do just that. I will do that by launching a campaign for a new America. You see, in this new America, it is your name that is just too hard to hear. It is you that looks suspicious. It is you that I do not accept. It is you that does not belong here. In this new America, there is nothing more American than someone that looks like me. So to anyone out there that feels like a stranger in their own home, I want you to reach out. Take my hand. Believe that in Ali you can trust. Thank you. Good night. And God bless our new America.
Our first story is about cool. Let me put this up. What is that? What is that? And what is that? Oh my goodness. In fact, let's see if I can get fancy and go whoop and put up all three. What is that? That is the response from the women involved in that brutal street fight, Tay Conti and Anna Jay against Penelope Ford and the Bunny, to the WWE's thing of the WWE's thing of snitching, and really dry snitching, talking about gore and violence and how that isn't cool. For one, what I'll say about this is it just goes to show, right, the WWE trying to undercut AEW's ability to get advertisers, which wrestling already gets a much lower rate than other shows, even proportional to the demographics that they pull in. Wrestling has always gotten less money than they should for advertising stuff. And so for WWE to try to undercut AEW even more is really bad business. And the response from AEW and the women involved in that match just goes to show whatever people want to say about money and all of this kind of stuff, the cool is definitely owned almost exclusively by AEW. And we'll see how much of a factor that is in 2022 and beyond. Let's put up this picture. What is this picture? This is Tony Khan, Britt Baker, and all the rest, and Kenny Omega with their awards from PWI, Pro Wrestling Illustrated. AEW dominates those awards, which is not a shock. PWI has always leaned towards non-WWE because WWE has never been that cooperative with PWI, even having their own magazine, which does not exist anymore, by the way. With PWI, obviously AEW super proud to be part of PWI, and I noticed Pro Wrestling Illustrated, they're talking about that issue on AEW shows. Why is this significant? Again, it's just AEW is establishing themselves as the cooler thing and the thing that's actually pro wrestling. And what could be more pro wrestling than this sort of throwback look? And I noticed that AEW has been putting up these graphics where their angles look like an old-time wrestling magazine and all that kind of stuff. I think it's just where cool lives, and I just thought it was sort of a cool thing to bring up on a Monday. How they're having this relationship. Well, let's look at this thing. Our WWE related story is about WWE 2K22 that's coming out. Hey, kid. So what is cool about that? Rey Mysterio's on the cover, which I think is awesome. There has been a backlash with certain garbage wrestling fans who want to argue whether Rey Mysterio deserves to be on the cover or whether the cover's cursed. And, I don't know what to say about that, except if you're somebody who has something bad to say about Rey Mysterio, screw yourself. I think that's something that most wrestling fans and wrestling people can get behind. Rey Mysterio is absolutely incredible. Now, this game, which is going to be competing with AEW's game, which is coming out soon, I'll say this. I have the dreaded 2K20 game. I got it for very, very cheap. And it is glitchy and all this other garbage. I will say that the trailer for WWE 2K22 put the right foot forward. I think Rey Mysterio is one of those right foot forward things. In the longer trailer, you're going to get a piece of this video at the end. I will say, leading with the graphics look good and the execution of the moves look good, it's a great first start in rebuilding that trust for that video game. And they're going to need it because I'm sure the AEW game is going to be super cool. If the WWE game can match it, however, and remove that stigma of one of the worst games ever put out, they'll be back in the hunt. And that'll be good to see. In any case, 1, 2, 3. This has been the Platinum Pinfall. Enjoy those graphics. And congratulations to Rey Mysterio. And have a great day.
Forget the incredible comeback story of Edge. Every move from Lashley is just thunderous.